Okay, we are going to call to order the special town council meeting. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. It is 10:03 a.m. We are in person at Rebecca Hall at 113 West Columbia Avenue, and we are also hybrid online. Next item on the agenda is roll call, and to my right,
Geneva Shawnette.
Me and Fee.
Ashley Von Sprecken.
and myself, Teddy Erico. Agenda item number 1, work sessions. 1A, work session to discuss the comprehensive plan, and we have Logan Simpson consultants here and Kristen here to get us rolling.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. I want to express my gratitude for you coming in early the day after our town council meeting for a work session on the comprehensive plan. We are so fortunate to have the team from Logan Simpson here in person this week for our big community kickoff. We have had so many events so far. I hope you've seen us popping up around town. We'll be at the gondola this evening. This team is going to get into some of what we've heard thus far and also what we have planned, but also a shout out to my team in the Historic Preservation Planning and Building Department, as well as our communications manager, for all the time and effort they're putting in. Right now, my staff is actively out in Elks Park with a pop-up there, collecting community input, and you'll see us all over. I hope you'll join us at some of those. So to start us off, I think it's important for us to do a round of introductions. And I can start. I'd like everyone to share their name, perhaps how long you've lived here in Telluride or had a connection to this place, and then also one thing you love about the town of Telluride, and that can be an activity, an event, a sport, something you enjoy about this place. So Kristen Clothier, Historic Preservation and Planning Director. I had the good fortune to come into this role and to move into this community about 10 months ago, and I'm so grateful to be here. And one of the many things I love about this place is I love to skate ski, and I love all the many groomed trails that I can enjoy right in my backyard. And so now I'm going to start to go around the room, and we're going to hear from everyone, but perhaps I'll start with you, Dan.
Sure. Happy to, Kristen. Hi, good morning, y'all. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to Telluride. Dan Enright. I am about a 13-year resident of Telluride. Moved here straight out of college, and like many, came for 6 months and never left. One of my things that I love about here is the mountain biking. I'm a big biker. If I had to pick a favorite trail, the Wasatch Connection is my favorite.
You.
I am Ashley Von Sprecken, and I am a lifetime resident. I was born in 1988. My family's been here for a long time. What I love about Telluride, I would say I really appreciate and adore our historic preservation efforts. I think it's really special that my great-grandparents' house is still present and looks the same as it did when it was built back in the early 1900s. So that's it.
Thank you.
My name is Mian Fee. I have lived here for I think 23 years now. I mean, the thing that I like the most about this town, this community, is the community itself. I think the people that are here are incredibly special and incredibly resilient. It's a hard place to make a living, and it's a hard place to thrive. And the people that do live here are so dedicated to their vision of what the community should be. And everybody's an active participant, which is really what I love the most.
Thank you.
Teddy Erico, closing in on 30 years. Like Dan, moved here for 6 months and never left. What I like about Telluride the most, and that's a tough answer because there's so many wonderful things here, but you know, all the activities I like are within such close proximity of one another, from ice hockey to snowboarding to everything in the town park, the festival scene, and most importantly, how the community of all ages ties all of those things together, just making it a wonderful place to live.
My name's Geneva Shawnette. I will be here 16 years this winter and moved right after college and came to ski, but stayed for kind of what Teddy said, the arts and culture, music, community, just is unmatched for such a small town, and the outdoors are amazing too. A lot of places have the outdoors, but we've got the arts and culture as well, which is really special, and I think attracts a lot of interesting people here.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm going to.
Oh, yes, I'm catching everyone.
Zoe Donnell, just about a decade here. The thing I love most about Telluride, I have 2 kids, and raising your family here is unmatched. Just a quick anecdote. One of my neighbors got a smartwatch, and Gavin asked for it, and he's like, "Oh, wait, no, you get that when you're 8." Like the fact that because when you're 8, you go free in this town and you don't have aftercare, but it's so safe, it's so secure. There's so many such a great community for children that it's a dream. So I feel very blessed to be here with my family.
Thank you. Now I'm going to circle back to you, Kevin.
Oh, okay, great. Kevin Geiger. Pardon me, I'm the town attorney for Telluride. I've been working and living in the community for about 25 years now. And I guess what I would say I love about Telluride the most is the exposure and ability to get out into nature on a variety of activities.
Me too.
Please.
I just did that.
Sorry.
My name is Tiffany Kavanaugh. I'm the town clerk. I've worked in the community for 15 years, but I live in Uray County. And the thing that I love about Telluride is that even though I don't live here, this is my community. And I know that I always say, like, if anything happens in my life, like, this is my community. And I know that these people that live here have my back, even though I don't live here. And the outdoors, like, I just look at the mountains when things are tough, because it is a very difficult community at times, but you just look at the mountains and put things in perspective, and that's it.
Thank you so much. And Lance was back there, but he will be leading our tour later today for staff and our consultants. And so we're looking forward to that also. So thank you all for being here. I will just give one quick observation from our week of comprehensive plan kickoff, and then I am going to have these consultants take it away. I will say that we had our first event pop up at Telco on Monday evening. We had about 90 people stop by and engage with us, which was amazing. And one of the best parts was that we had so many people of all ages, including young children, who are willing to come in and share what they love about this place with us, and all the way up through those who'd graduated from high school and were back for the summer from college, and throughout our community. So it was just such a great way to get this started. So thank you all for being here, and we look forward to hearing from you. I'm going to now introduce this amazing team. This is 3 of the 5 key people who are part of the team. We've been working remotely closely, but this is my first chance to work with them in person. They'll be back this time and then 2 more times in person for week-long engagement events throughout the next year. So I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so happy to be here, and thanks for coming in again this morning after a long meeting yesterday. I'm Megan Moore. I'm with Logan Simpson. I'm based out of Fort Collins, but have been helping communities such as Telluride do this type of process for almost 20 years now. I think our hearts really love working in smaller towns like this, kind of resort-based, just because I think you face a lot of big issues, but everybody feels those issues a lot differently than larger towns. And so just being able to get here and meet with the community this week has really been great. Set us off on the right track.
And I'm Sophie Frankenberg, also with, I don't know if we need to speak into the mic. I'm also with Logan Simpson, community planner. I am not based in Colorado. I'm based out of the Salt Lake City office. However, I live just outside of Zion National Park. So I'm down in the southern part of the state. And I'm from Park City, Utah. So I've seen a lot of change over my lifetime. I think some similarities and definitely some lessons learned, from some of their growth. But I think we were just talking about walking over here. I asked Sarah if it feels good to be back home. And she said, you probably feel the same way. There's a sense of comfortability when you walk into your home. And I think that Telluride has felt pretty comfortable for all of us. We were asked just the other night, what's our favorite place that we visited throughout all of the different communities that we've lived in. visited and worked in. And it was kind of a resounding, from the first time we came last fall. It was like, Telluride feels really good. So yeah, just really excited. Really, really thrilled to kick off this process, and very grateful for you all to be a part of this first kind of kickoff week and work through some of the same questions that the community is being asked. So thank you.
Thanks, Sophia. Sarah Brown. I'm part of the Logan Simpson team, but I'm with Western Spaces. I was born and raised in Telluride, a little before you, Ashley, late 70s, left in the early 2000s. So was here for about 24 or so years. I am now in Salida, but still stay very connected to the community. A lot of kids I grew up with are still here, including Jesse, who didn't show up today. But it's nice to see them here and contributing as well. So I bring the affordable housing and workforce housing experience to the team, as well as helping with community engagement, having such a deep history with the town.
We should mention we've got two other folks on site. Ben Osterling works side by side with me out of Fort Collins. Dan, you should talk to him because he's a huge mountain biker as well.
Sure.
Brought his bike this week. He's been
Okay.
out.
Pretty good.
Great.
And then Rocio Ramirez, who's with Felsberg Holt-Willevig out of Denver, transportation planner, but she's also part of the team because she's a native Spanish speaker. And so she's able to bring that interpretation component, and we'll lean on her to reach out to that demographic as well. So you'll see them if you stop by the gondola this evening. The team will be out there. And I don't know if anybody's in roundtables tomorrow.
Yes, actually, a number of. our
Okay,
persons-
great. Then you'll probably meet them tomorrow as well.
Which ones of us is that?
Is it me?
Didn't email them.
Okay, so we are going to start off today just with a little bit of a project overview, let you know what we've been up to this week. We've only been here a few days, but it feels like about a week. We've been very, very busy. So we want to share some of those events with you and kind of some things that we've been hearing. We will also cover the engagement opportunities for the entire project, the whole process. As Kristen mentioned, we will be back. And then some next steps prior to opening it up for discussion among you all. And hopefully we can get some feedback from you on some of the questions that we're asking the community as well. So a little bit of presentation, and then we'll get into some discussion and some back and forth. So to set the stage before diving in, this is a slide that we like to share with various groups throughout the process to make sure everyone understands what a comprehensive plan is. It is a long-term and strategic guide. So we're looking 10, 20 years out. It also includes vision, it includes goals and strategies as well. So that vision plan that you all went through that process a few years ago, that was not all for nothing. We are during this phase reconfirming that vision, and we'll ensure that that will be carried throughout the process. It is a tool that helps shape decisions related to new development, infrastructure, services, programs. It's not just a land use document, but it really does address all sorts of issues and opportunities across the town. So all departments are going to be plugging into this process. It's also a living document. Although it is adopted by your planning commission, it is meant to evolve. Looking 20 years from now is a difficult task. So we do anticipate that there will be some amendments to this plan down the line. You just can't foresee all things that may happen. Your 2006 master plan was amended in 2012. So that's a perfect example of kind of the typical process of that living document. And while I said it does not just guide land use, it does have a component of a future land use plan within. So looking at kind of town-wide, what land uses are most appropriate in the future, and what do those land uses look like, looking at those categories specifically. It is not regulatory. So it is not a land use code. It is not a development code. It is a guide that informs those pieces down the line. And it's also not zoning. So it typically is not parcel by parcel. It will not determine what one can and cannot do with their property. But it will provide kind of a broad brush, I guess, strategy for land uses down the line. It also will not fix every single issue. It will definitely attempt to address top of mind issues. We wish it would address all issues, but unfortunately, some issues are just a bit too broad to put into a document, no matter the engagement level, no matter how great the strategies are. It'll be a combination of subsequent actions down the line. And again, it's not site specific. So it will not be a topic specific plan either. Hopefully it encompasses all different types of topics within. That is the goal. The state legislature does require certain topics to be covered in a comprehensive plan. Those now include water supply and management. So that will be a new component to your plan. It also requires you to address and see forward strategies and take into consideration your housing needs assessment, which is actually great timing considering San Miguel has done the regional needs assessment for housing. It's fresh off the press, so we'll be taking that throughout this process and incorporating it. It also requires you to address recreation and tourism. So that will be another thing that is seen through this plan, and many other topics that come up throughout the process. So looking at the process of developing a comprehensive plan, there are a lot of different things that go into it. The very first thing that we like to do, kind of in tandem with this kickoff series, is start to dive into what is existing today in Telluride. So this is where we'll pull in Ben Osterling, who's with us here. He is a really great data analyst and geospatial map. We're workshopping a name for him. He's not just a GIS analyst. He's a mapping storyteller. But he will be a huge component of seeing actual site, kind of the town specific existing conditions and future conditions as well. That vision and values will be carried through. That is really the top umbrella piece of a comprehensive plan. Right now, we are trying to nail down those values even further. Your community vision plan did identify those core values, and now we're asking the community, do you still agree with these? Do these still make sense? And if so, what do they mean to you? Kind of embedded underneath that vision are goals. So those are the goals of the community to achieve that vision. Within goals, we have objectives and policies, a little bit more specific, trying to get closer to those actions and strategies where planning commission, town council, staff can point to those actions and say, let's take this on this year. Let's get this done, because it will ultimately get us one step closer to our overall community vision. And then we do have that future land use component. So there will be a future land use map that will help with future decisions when being faced with perhaps rezone requests or other sorts of use requests as well.
As Kristen said, we anticipate being out here, 3 times. And there might be some individual meetings, but really this engagement series that we're doing this week will be reflected again and again at the process. We've kind of organized it into 3 different phases. This first one is more us gathering information from the community, gathering data from key sources, doing a little due diligence behind the scenes for existing conditions, working with staff to take a look at the old comprehensive plan, make sure any of the goals and policies that are still applicable still make sense or rolled into this update. And then phase 2, being able to kind of report back, of course, what we've heard from the community, solidify any changes that might be needed to the vision statement and the themes, start talking about what those goals and policies and land use look like, and then even diving into some of the key areas or neighborhoods. So yes, Of course, you'll have townwide issues and opportunities, but being able to even drill down into different neighborhoods, what some of these issues and opportunities are for key areas, potentially key catalyst sites or key opportunity sites, and be able to roll those into the plan as well. So that'll be some of the things the public will be able to respond to in phase 2. And then phase 3, again, kind of remind folks of the overall process, kind of recap where we've been, what we've heard, make sure we got it right, and try to gain buy-in for the plan before the adoption process. So at that point, they'll see the whole document itself, land use, options, actions, strategies, et cetera, and be able to kind of create those final comments before it comes to planning and zoning and you all for adoption. The whole process is anticipated to take about a year. So right now we're looking at probably being back probably January, February timeframe for the next round of heavy engagement. And then further into the spring, doing that last round of heavy engagement before adoption anticipated in early summer in June. Any questions about the process? I know it's a big graphic to take in. So some of those engagement opportunities, a lot of these pictures that you see are happening right now this week. We're starting one-on-one conversations by being out in the community. We've also got the opportunity over the next month, maybe even push that into September, to do virtual one-on-one conversations. And these are a chance for all of you, for general public, to be able to sign up and just give a little bit more information, maybe background on some key issues or opportunities that are important to you. Online mapping and storyboarding. So we're trying to get an online map, knowing that the town's rather small. We've got the opportunity to really dig in and identify opportunities for key sites, for key areas. So we're working to get an online map integrated in the website, the Engage Telluride website, so folks can be able to plug in and add comments. The online questionnaire is up right now, will be for at least a month. We'll have the opportunity to extend that if we think we haven't gotten enough response, want to hear from more folks. And that asks some of the questions that we'll ask you all today. But if you ask anybody to do anything at this point, I would direct them to the website and that online questionnaire for now. And then, as we've mentioned a couple times, the gondola chats, hillside huddles, the drop-in sessions that we're having this week, just really kind of out there to get folks aware of the process and how they can plug in. And then the small area workshops is something that we'll hit kind of in that phase 2, even phase 3 timeframe. We talked a little bit about the community kickoff. Kristen mentioned that we had about 90 folks show up for that event. Again, just really getting folks aware of the process. I was kind of interested and happy to see that a lot of the folks that stopped by were younger. I feel like through these processes, a lot of the folks that we hear back from are a little older, but they're the ones that kind of have the time to plug in, aware of some of the key issues, aware of the meetings, and show up. So it was good to get kind of that dynamic and hear from some of the younger folks in the community about what they'd like to see. So hopefully they're still here in the planned timeframe, 10, 20 years down the road, and they'll see the results of some of these comments and changes. Within phase 2, we've got the ability to bring in what we call immersion labs. So actually being able to stand in front of a large scale screen, kind of 180 degrees. And I think, again, with the scale of the town, this kind of helps really talk about some of those opportunities, getting back into historic preservation, like how do you preserve some of these buildings, some of these key sites, what that character looks like for new development or should look like. And be able to have maybe a more thorough conversation with the public because they can actually see it. It's not just a color on the map. It's not just a narrative description, but actually help visualize that. And then at the end of the day, the plan showcase celebration, what we'll try to do is make it fun. Maybe include a lot of imagery from the process, from the plan itself. But definitely something a little above and beyond just throwing the draft plan out on the table for folks to read through. So. The goals for phase 1. So again, just making sure the community is aware of the process. Engage Telluride has one of the key featured projects right now is the comprehensive plan. So we've been directing folks there for some of the early information, the online questionnaire, etc. As Sophie mentioned, just building on the community vision that you have in place. So we don't want to recreate the wheel. There was a big process in place. It was a successful process. I think what we've been hearing already is that folks are generally on board with that overall vision statement. And then the key themes or the core values that were identified as part of that plan, kind of building on those, but then consistently adding some detail in that as we go through the process. From the demographic side, we're starting to track who we're hearing from. Like I mentioned, generally Monday night, it's a lot of younger folks. That's good. But we'll do this and we ask some key demographic questions in that online questionnaire, not because we really want to track who we do want to track who we're hearing from, but more importantly, who we're not hearing from in the town, and then can kind of keep an eye on that. If we're not hearing from some key demographics, neighborhoods, some of the commuter population, then we'll mitigate that and try to reach out and get those folks involved. And then the last part of this phase is really just getting information. Like I said, it's kind of gathering information from the community at this phase and better understanding some of the key issues and opportunities that we need to address. Just a snapshot of this week. We're a little over halfway through the week right now. We did start out with Planning and Zoning Commission in a work session, and we'll kind of close out the week with kind of a recap to them of what we've heard. The community kickoff event, of course, we've mentioned a couple different times now, as well as the listening sessions in the mornings. We met with a couple of members of HARC yesterday. We had our first kickoff meeting with the Community Advisory Committee last night. We'll be doing kind of a town tour. So Lance is back there now. He's our tour guide this afternoon. And we've been promised he's the best tour guide in town, but just
Ashley Bowling might have something to say about that.
So maybe that's the next trip. We'll do another tour.
He'll do the historic walking tour with you.
So being able to get out on site and kind of see and stand there on key sites to know better some of those issues that we've heard from the public. We'll be at the gondola base this evening. So there's a music event up in Mountain Village. So before everybody gets on the gondola, we have a lot of questions for them to plug into and ask. And then even if folks have the time and want to elaborate on some of the issues, I think the team is willing to just ride up on the gondola and sit with them for a while, come back down. So we'll see what we hear from those. And then tomorrow, kind of closing it out with roundtable events. So this includes folks from different boards and commissions around town, as well as some of your nonprofit groups, community organizations, developers, builders, housing specialists, etc. And then meeting with the department heads as well. Again, just because we stop at July 24th, online engagement opportunities will continue throughout the whole process, but the key questions that we're asking right now, at least for another month. And then just a little bit about next steps before we get into some of the questions we have for you. Again, kind of just continuing kickoff event series. Okay, so we've got those online virtual sessions through the rest of July and into early August. So we'll look for folks to sign up on that, just kind of continuing that conversation. In the background, and we'll work with probably department heads and town staff on this, is to take a look at that existing plan, make sure that we're not losing anything from that plan, but building on it and identifying the things that need to move forward. Existing conditions, we do have a question for you on like some key stats and statistics. So if we're talking about what the story of the town is now, we want to reflect kind of where the town sits, what's changed over the past 20, 30 years, what we can anticipate to see over the next 20, 30 years, and kind of tell that story, kind of setting the stage for what we need to address in goals and policies for the plan. So we'll be beginning that process. And as I've mentioned a couple times, the online questionnaire is there for folks to plug in.
So Megan mentioned a few questions that we have for you all. We wanted to start off having just done this sort of overview of the process and what a comprehensive plan is. In your opinion, what does success look like to you? And you're welcome to, anyone can jump in or.
I'll just say, I think success will look like a large participation numbers and sort of minimizing the criticism we often get from the public that we didn't do enough to let everybody
Right.
know how to participate or whatnot. I think that we'll probably get roughly the same answers with a larger sample size, but I think that that'll provide some more ownership to the community, feeling like they at least knew what was going on and hopefully had an opportunity to
Mhm.
participate.
Right.
I mean, I would say that success would be a very comprehensive document that,
A very comprehensive plan.
yeah, I mean, right. Of course. I would like there to be an actual roadmap. I think we've
Mhm.
looked at comprehensive plans in the past. It, to me, feels too nebulous. And so by the
Right.
time we get to the point that the plan envisioned, it is it's so blurry that it's not really a plan at all. And I would actually like to see this as a plan. I think that we have limited opportunities now to do things correctly. And so I think that there needs to be more of a roadmap to what that future success looks like than we would maybe have done 15 years ago.
I agree with Mian 100%. I think sometimes I feel like these documents and these processes get just like too buzzwordy and we're just like saying all of the nice things and like doing that, but it's like figuring out, okay, if we want economic, vibrancy, what does that translate to in actionable items? So I agree with what Mian said, is that the plan piece to me is the biggest part. And then we'll just echo Geneva's sentiment that as large a participation, or at least everybody know, even if they choose not to participate, like the visibility and the feeling like they know what's happening, they know what we're doing, whether they choose to interact with us or not is their choice. But that we get that feedback a lot. Well, I didn't even know this was happening. I didn't know that you guys were doing this. And now you've made all these decisions and I didn't get to say my piece. You know how it is. So I think that whether or not people choose to participate, at least that we've given them the opportunity to, and they're very much aware of what we're doing.
I'll add on, I agree with everything that's been said so far. One thing in my experience, you'll often find is you ask 5 people in Telluride for an opinion and you'll get 7 answers back. So how to combine all that, but still having the sort of guiding themes that'll come through those different answers be the things that are the core of our document or of our plan, while still contextualizing and providing the sort of trade-offs. I think, Ashley, when you're talking about like, oh, if we focus on a strong tourism economy, which is great and definitely part of our plan, well, then does that mean, okay, then we have to invest more in other infrastructure, and what are the sort of things that we then have to do, the costs to support that, and make sure that that is clearly laid out while still holding true to the values that we're trying to represent. So housing opportunities, strong economy, recreation opportunities, etc.
And then for me, it's, pretty repetitive to what everyone said, but I'm hoping that success in the short term is, constructive criticism and positive feedback from the local community, and less of that waxing poetic about what Telluride used to be and its ruined kind of mentality that we hear. And then in the long term, just with kind of, having us in a box canyon with kind of, limited ability to, figure out, on so many different levels what our connectivity is within how things were done, from what we valued historically to some changes in the 70s, 80s as we transition to a ski resort, and then where we're at now with our large challenges like affordable housing, infrastructure, and how is that all tied together to lead us on a path that creates efficiencies and really just makes for a better community, which is pretty much what we all up here at this desk love.
I just want to to follow. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I've worked with a number of communities on comprehensive planning processes, and I think as I think about success, it resonates so much with what each of you just shared. And one aspect is how can we use this process in the year ahead to build community and really strengthen connections and hear from everyone. And I'm hearing that being something that's a priority of this group. And then also, how do we ensure that this is not a plan that sits on a shelf and, you know, is completed and then it's filed away and it's on the website, but how do we have this be really the active engagement tool for our community moving forward, have it come up every year with updates to the implementation pieces, and really make this be that tool for bringing community together moving forward. And I think we have some ideas as a team for how to use technology, how to use innovative ways to make this a living and action-oriented process, not just a planning process. So I just wanted to reflect back at you. Thank you so much for the insights you shared.
And I also just add too that I feel like another big criticism that we receive is that we sort of are reactive and we're doing things as they come up, and that we don't have a long-term plan, even though we all do sort of in our heads, but we don't, it's not on paper. So, I mean, I think that's the whole point of this. Maybe that goes without saying, but when people can say, why are you doing this now? Why haven't you considered XYZ going first? We can say, well, look, here's our plan. And that just goes to your point about actionable steps.
And I think to your, I mean, Kristen, that was to what you said also, like when I'm looking at these questions that are here, just to jump ahead, like one of the key issues I think is, and it's an opportunity, is, you know, the divisiveness in this community. And I think really using this process to bring people back together to have these conversations, whether it's with people that have like opposing viewpoints or don't even know each other. I think that ultimately this plan will be successful or fail based on the buy-in that the community will or will not have to the future that we all collectively, you know, design together.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that
Well said.
to piggyback on negative feedback that we get, it feels like a lot of, you know, times when people are frustrated or there's negative feedback, it comes from a place of feeling like things are being done to them rather than feeling like they're active participants in the process. So, you know, this to me is like, if you don't want to feel like things are just being imposed on you, then you need to like participate in this comprehensive planning process. And I think that if we can encourage people to do that, then they won't feel as negative towards decisions and, you know, changes and stuff like that if they can feel like they're an active part of the conversation, which is also criticism that we get, that we're not listening to what people want.
And that actually leads, oh, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, just one last thing, because it is just an interesting topic, and I don't think I have any great insight in here, but on the topic of negativity, we certainly experience, and here it is, elected officials. I don't think that that's wholly unique to Telluride. The challenge, as I see it there, is it's so much easier to be negative and against something because there's one thing you don't like about it, and you can just really focus on that one thing that makes it bad and hard. And to be pro something, to want to build something or create new things, it requires a much more nuanced understanding of it, see the big picture, understand the trade-offs, see where some of that is good. I don't know how that's possible necessarily to include in this plan, but it's been a thought I've been having for a while as a council person of how do we get people to like let go of the one negative thing that they see that causes the objections or really, you know, causes some of the frictions as we try to work and build and advance our community. But some people, that's the thing that they just can't get over. And so as we're talking about some of that negativity, which we certainly do see, it's a thought that occurs to me.
I was going to lead us into the next question here with everyone pretty much touching on community engagement, making sure this truly is a community plan. The community is aware of the trade-offs and the considerations and what we're talking about with the vision and the actions and the entire plan overall. Do you have any thoughts on some different ways to engage or to collect feedback that might be unique to your experiences here to Telluride that we may not have yet?
A lot of our workers are obviously in service industry jobs. And a lot of people do work multiple jobs due to our seasonal economy. When we're on, we're on, and when we're off, we're off. And so one way in which to engage with that community, because obviously if you're working multiple jobs, you don't have a lot of free time, and the free time you do, you feel less motivated to spend doing a survey or, going to a community event. So perhaps trying to get in touch with restaurants and bars, and even like have a little 10-minute, 5-minute pop-ins during their like staff lineup, which is usually sometime between like 3 and 4. And just like having 5 minutes where you can solicit input from that demographic, because it is an important demographic that's often less engaged in processes like these.
Yeah, I would say if, it's a little late for Town Park in the softball season, but certainly with soccer coming up soon, between the locals that play in it and the people who go watch it, that might be an opportunity, or some other events within Town Park seem to be a good idea too, that you can kind of catch people when they're have a little bit more time.
Or the concerts that are in Elks Park might be a good.
The Augment series.
Yeah. Coda's got a big 50th anniversary street dance, which is October 4th. I don't know if that's outside the, and I'm helping produce that, so I don't know if they would want to have a government booth there, but they have been rotating different organizations having a booth at that, and that's gonna be like 1,000-1,500 people there.
They're like live at the drive.
Live at the Drive is this Friday.
Yeah.
Well, say that one more time.
There's a block party just on Pine Street right here on Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. So that I would come more like 7-ish, or I would expect it to get busier around then, but that could maybe be a good one. I can ask them if that's okay to set up a table.
It's kind of cheesy, but sometimes incentivizing participation through like, raffles and stuff like that. I mean, somebody might take 10 minutes if they're like, hey, maybe I'll win $100 gift card or something like that. I know, like I said, it's kind of cheesy, but
Free beer.
yeah, no, for real, like some sort of incentive or things like that, just so that people feel like they're, it might be like, well, if I get something out of doing this, then I'll go ahead and do it, even if, they.
Or we do like a pizza party, I mean, I think to Dan's point about service workers, in the service industry here, if we were to do something at lunchtime to draw them in prior to like shifts starting, that could be really helpful. I struggle with using the farmer's market. I mean, I feel like when we saw that with our last sort of iteration of this, when we were doing visioning, the feedback was so disproportionately from people from outside of the community that really concerned me. I appreciate their input and we want some of that, but it did feel as though as a result, the results skewed towards people that don't necessarily maybe have as firm of a grasp on what this community is and its challenges, its needs, and its opportunities.
I think that the number one excluded group is going to be our Latino population. So getting in touch with members of CAFE and trying to figure out, asking them what the best way to get that sort of feedback is. And then I wonder about what about going in the schools and trying to figure out what the social studies or history classes or whatever in the high school, some assignments or projects.
Well, they're
can
on
get
summer
through this-
break right now.
True, but
But not
be
for-
back in school soon.
Yeah, and you can also utilize the athletic events, for boys and girls sports and
Soccer.
and there's typically a pretty good turnout at those events as well that you might really tap into the community. I mean, that's also the big challenge is you have, we fight that battle all the time of, how far does our community stretch and for what the impacts of Telluride are that we're forced to carry the expense of, and how do you, that's really, really tricky to balance that, because everyone is a member of the community, even if you don't live here, but we serve the people that are our constituents, you know, and that's always a big challenge here because you'll see a lot of the people that used to live in town that for whatever reason they wanted more space, affordability, where an affordable housing unit is located, that are no longer our constituents, but they're going to have their opinions. And how do you balance that?
There's also the Jazz Festival too, which is a pretty locally attended festival. It's, you know, there's obviously gonna be people from out of town, but it tends to be a lot of locals as well that go to the Jazz Festival.
Maybe going on Kodo as well. They have off the record is like an hour long. You can talk about, it's with the news team, but they'll also have some like shorter spots where you can do, what do they call it? The 3-minute ones.
Access?
Yeah, access, where you can just go and talk for 3 minutes about whatever you want. But I think arranging an interview or two with
Yeah.
one of our local shows or with the news, and just maybe even just talking through a survey with 1 or 2 people, and then, you know, can share the links to more info after that. But way more people listen to Kodo than
I think that's a great
I ever
idea,
think.
honestly. Like, I think, and going on like just a couple of different, you know, just these different hosts and different shows,
Yeah.
because it's different demographics and they have different friends. But I think I think that's a great idea.
Does anyone have, if you do have a connection with anyone in the school, that would be a huge help to us. That's.
I can help with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
great.
we all do.
That's like because that, yeah, we love doing that, and it's something that we get such great feedback on, but you do need that person to help us get there. So great.
And we do have representatives from the school system who are going to be in the roundtables on Thursday, so they'll have a first touch point with this group. I think one thing I've been thinking about, because our consulting team will be here, you know, just 2 more times, I've been thinking about my staff capacity, and what you've been sharing is giving me all these ideas. I would love to have a pop-up booth and assign my team members, including myself, to just a certain number of locations, maybe once a week. Each of us takes an hour or 2 hours, and we're out in the community. I wonder, and we can make that happen for sure, because I'd like to see this continue now that we've kicked off, and especially hearing, you know, your ideas and the importance of getting as much engagement as we can through the process. There's the survey, but the in-person piece is the part I love of these processes, and I think it's really important. My team's kind of experiencing it this weekend and is sort of tuned up and excited about helping. I wonder if there are other, I don't know, if there are other people in the community who might like to team up with us in helping to spread the word, not to add more volunteer, you know, loads to those who are very dedicated. But I'd love to hear, it doesn't have to be during this session, but if you have ideas for people who might like to, you know, increase our
I
capacity.
think we should pay people to do that. Like,
Or you-
I think that
yeah.
there's gotta be room in the budget.
Yeah, that's a
to
great suggestion.
Pay some staff members. I think that there's a lot of.
And that's what I'd be picturing with my staff members, is it would be work,
Yes.
not volunteer, for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think you'll get a lot more interest
Hmm.
if people are paid for their time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Great
I
suggestion.
can think of names, but
And
they would say, what does it pay? And what's the
Yep.
schedule? And
no, that's something for us to
And
consider.
we're also in our busy summer season, and it's going to be really tough for a lot of folks here. You know, what?
To staff then.
it kind of tapers
Yeah.
off mid-August for like, at least for like Telluride Academy counselors and people who are working with kids.
Yeah.
It does
It
slow down a
depends.
little, and then it picks back up in September.
And then another idea, if it's just a little bit of a slippery slope, but every Monday, the Telluride Association of Realtors does a senior luncheon,
Ah,
and that's usually at, you know, one of the churches in town. But you could, you know, that's usually pretty well attended, 20, 30 people that have a pretty long history here. So there might be some
We could
valuable.
talk to about getting it sent out to the Telluride Association of Realtors. I mean, the Telluride Association of Realtors and its affiliates is like over 200 members. So it's a big fraction of our population too. I'm sure we could get that sent out.
That's easy.
That's easy.
And just to be clear, like in those surveys and all of those, like we are we are like, there's a question that says like, where do you live? Right? Like,
Yes.
so, okay. So I just want to make sure that people aren't just gonna say, live in Telluride and they live in Boston.
Sure.
or not.
No, I think it's
There's
important.
An exhaustive list.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure. Yeah.
Another.
Okay.
And the survey is live on the Engage Telluride website now, so we encourage you all to go see it and also take it if you would like to.
Yeah.
And then, moving on to sort of our last question here, we've highlighted ways to engage, some things that are important to you all and making sure that we're paying attention to in this process. Lastly, and I know there's a lot, it can be a very deep question, but maybe higher level. What are some of the key issues and or opportunities that you feel we really need to make sure we address in this effort?
It's a tough one, and I'm not sure
Yeah.
what the answer is, but with a lot of the things and the services and the programming that the town, supports, conducts, pay for, whatever, is within our comprehensive plan. How is it impacted by the other two governments, the town of Mountain Village and San Miguel County, and with what their planning may or may not be, as we get completely squeezed out by the expectation that the town of Telluride must do everything. And it's an easy example, but one of the examples is recreation. And you look at the lack of facilities for the most part in the county, in the town of Mountain Village, and everyone just expects it to happen, within these 3 walls of the Box Canyon. And we're just running out of room as our community grows. And so my opinion is, how is our comprehensive plan best serve us, but also work with what the other governments are in their plans and what they're doing?
Be basically saying like figuring out, we might get feedback from some of our constituents of we want X, Y, Z. And then through this process, we might say X and Y aren't things that can be
Can't do,
accomplished
right?
in our town, but we will work with our neighboring communities to represent you, to say that this is something that you want, that we can't, maybe we don't have the space, maybe we don't have the right, location, whatever it is for the thing that you want.
Or it's a regional issue, so.
Or it's a regional issue.
Collaboration makes sense.
Is that kind of
Which
what you're
is pretty
saying?
much every issue.
Yeah.
I mean, every issue is a regional issue.
Well, and I think, we have the East End Master Plan, Mountain Village has their own comprehensive plan. I think just making sure that we aren't creating our comprehensive plan in a silo, and that we are looking at the things that they have said that they want to tackle as well, because I do think, to everybody's point, like Telluride does tend to carry the burden disproportionately. So if there are things that the other two communities have identified as things that they would like to take on, I think really analyzing whether or not we want to let them do that, or if that's something that we still feel like we need to be taking the lead on, and then working with them to adjust the regional plan.
Obviously, housing is going to be a big component of your guys's of our plan, excuse me. But more granularly, we saw in our recent housing needs assessment that we're getting the sort of bifurcated community where below 80% AMI, our population is growing, above 150% AMI, our population is growing. And so it's sort of that middle class that's particularly challenged. Our plan is going to be for everyone. We do care about all income earners in our region, but specifically, clearly the data is showing between 80 and 100%, 80 and 150% AMI. That seems to be the biggest challenge for our region or community currently. So addressing that specifically.
Maybe I'm jumping backwards for a second, but maybe this is part of a key issue as well. As it seems like there's a big section of our community that gets their information from social media, and they don't get it from our social media. So there's a couple like complainy Facebook groups that everyone is paying attention to, and that's where they first hear about things and weigh in on stuff. And at times we tend to try and like stay out of that, but we'll sometimes provide good information when it seems like everybody's going way in the weeds off the rails. I think that actually posting in there about this is a good idea. But I think that is going to be an ongoing issue for all of us. Is like, we can put stuff in the newspaper, we can put it on the radio, but people are scrolling, and that's where they are getting a lot of information. And so how do we how we as a government or as a town, like move with the times to like try and infiltrate that.
I think we have to, I mean, I think there has to be a complete strategy around that because ultimately the narrative is shaped by the people that are shaping the narrative. And if we are not starting those conversations and we are not controlling that conversation, it is going to just be people posting things that are factually inaccurate or misunderstood. And then those ultimately do become the truths, regardless of whether or not they are. And so I think if we are preemptive to all of that, then we have a chance of being successful with the majority of the community actually understanding the process and the facts of the matter.
I think the sooner that we post kind of the plan and the rollout of this and all the opportunities onto some of those pages, the better. Because, and it's frustrating because people are like, why don't you just post it here? This is where everyone is. And we're like, well, that's we're the government. We're not supposed to be weighing in on Facebook gripe
Yeah.
groups.
And this survey's
Not really.
stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
But this
I mean,
is
This is
like
the
a,
ultimate opportunity to like complain
Tell us your
or
gripe.
rave about something.
I'm just gonna say something as like, you know, in the key issues thing, this feels like it's, you know, a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking because you guys have already created the survey questions. But I really struggle when we get information that says our constituents say that livability is very important to them. Livability is going to mean 10 things to 10 different people. Livability might mean that you want more festivals because you need to make more money, and that would make your community more livable because you would have more economic opportunity. Livability to somebody else might say that, hey, I don't want any more festivals because it's too loud and I can't sleep at night and that affects my livability. So it gets very difficult again when we get these, sometimes we get this information. I talked about buzzwords earlier. We get these information with, yes, people want this buzzword, but that doesn't actually reflect in any sort of actionable plan or opportunity because we don't, like getting more specificity or having people explain what they mean when they're thinking of that word, or what it would be an example of what would make it more livable, things like that. Cause it's like, it gets very hard again, when we're like, these broad terms that mean a lot of different things to different people. And then we might take direction on something, and somebody who said, I want things to be more livable. And we're like, we're making things more livable, and go, you're doing the exact opposite of what I wanted you to do.
I mean, yeah, community, vitality,
Yeah.
lots of sort of nebulous
Big words
buzzwords.
that encompass everything.
Yeah.
And then- Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see that in the questionnaire now that we ask about the core values and priorities, but also kind of ask to drill down into what that means. And then the subsequent questionnaires, so think high level for this one, and then each kind of drills down into a little bit more detail, so we kind of get at that. But I agree, we run into that everywhere, because again, we work in a lot of different mountain resort towns, and everybody likes the quality of life, but what does that mean to everybody individually? So you really kind of get off track if you go down one path because you're not truly understanding what that means. So.
And I think that's just to follow on Megan. There is, the first survey, and that's kind of bouncing off the vision plan from a couple of years ago. But I'd be welcoming and would appreciate your insights as to what questions you would like to have us be asking as we move forward with the future surveys. Each one's going to be like the 3-minute quick hit surveys, and they're going to be surveys throughout the year. We know that there's the annual community survey that's extensive, so we decided not to replicate that idea, but to just have these short, quick ones. And I know that there were some thoughts in one of your town council sessions about some deeper drilling you were interested in from that community survey. So please share that with us, because we're still building those next surveys that'll roll out.
It's probably falls under issue, but what is the thought process that you may have an engagement of the ski company? And
Falls under issue.
it's an issue.
It's an issue.
and and that's a tough one, because that's the hardest thing when you let's call it, you work with a large influential group or employer, and how do you value what they want versus what may be selfish to them versus what's best to the community. and whoever that may be. But the ski company certainly will impact our town incredibly in any plan that we do. And
I mean, we've invited Mr. Horning to one of our groups. I don't know if he's RSVP'd or not. Obviously, he is the voice of that ski resort, as we have learned through many of our workings with the ski resort. So while we could ask for a different representative, we're really looking to their key leadership to be part of this process. And to your point of making sure that we have valuable input, then he needs to be part of that process, whether he can or will question. And if we get other input from other representatives, then we can have that.
and it might be two different things where you might get great input from somebody who is a middle level manager of what they think the relationship would be based on their experience versus what the ownership group or high level management want in their bubble.
I mean, I think that I think maybe that's the point, is that we want the feedback from ownership. We need the feedback from ownership, but we also need the feedback from mid-level employees and also entry-level employees, because they are going to have different perspectives as to how the ski resort impacts the community, but each and every one of those perspectives is incredibly valuable and different enough that we need to look for each.
No, go ahead.
No, you first.
Nope, you go ahead. I wasn't gonna, go ahead.
Sure. I was just going to say one opportunity is these roundtables and the way we're bringing people together on topics. And so we're having the first set this Thursday, but for each time this group comes on deck, we're going to have different topics, different themes, and different people coming together who are stakeholders in those areas. And so perhaps we can think about a way to really focus on key topics in the next round, in addition to the youth focused roundtable we plan to have next time and a small business roundtable. So I think there might be ways to pull people into those conversations, starting with Thursday.
And I think we really have to hit hard on when the next level of engagement is. I mean, I think the perception in our community will be that this round came about pretty quickly. And did they, in their minds, have enough notice? Did they know about it at all to show up to these things? What did these meetings even mean to them to prioritize showing up? And instead of getting hammered on that, which, like those social media groups, getting out in front of that now at the conclusion of our meetings, like, hey, not too late. We're coming back. This is when, and really getting that word out now, because that's the one real challenge that we will face, is that for people to throw us under the bus if they perceive we get off on the wrong foot, and
Or that we're trying to do something without seeking
that's right.
input, that we just, I think the perception is that things get posted one time, and then if you missed that one time, you missed it, and it's because we don't want the input.
And our decision process is already made.
Yeah.
And we hear that on multiple projects that we do. Well, you've already decided, so what's the point? And we don't want that narrative for this.
I've got two comments before we just move on. To the Telski thing, I don't believe that they will show up at any of these roundtables. I think if you want input from Telski in any way, the only way we're going to get that is if we show up. And when I say we show up and go and talk to them and try and pull it out of them, whether or not we think that's worth our time is a question that we have to answer.
It's 100% worth our time. And so, if that is the way that we have to do it, then that's the way we have to do it.
Yeah, I think the idea that they're gonna, their pattern of behavior has not shown that they are receptive to coming to invited, discussions, things like that. So I think that if we want input, then we should expect that we're going to have to go to them to get it. I just want to, before we move on too far, because we're here talking about feedback and stuff like that. I think that sometimes in our messaging, we just show the step that we're on. And I think that in this process, if we're expecting people to fill out surveys multiple times with different types of surveys and keeping them engaged, I think we need to present that now to say, here's the process. I'm gonna go back to my cheesy incentivization thing. If we've got like 3 different surveys that we want our community members to fill out, I think that we need to say like, hey, maybe we do a big prize. Like maybe it's like we do like a ski pass, or we do something like a big enough thing that says, hey, if you fill out all of these surveys for the next year to help us come up with this plan, then you're going to be entered in a drawing to win something that's like meaningful, so that like people can get that information now and know, hey, if I sign up these 3 times, I could get something great. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like,
Or a
people
few.
might fill out the first time and then get fatigued or think they've already filled it out. We just need to like roadmap this for them.
I think that's a great idea. I think that this is something that throwing money at would be helpful for. Also wonder, like, what if we treat it like a couple of special events and we go through the case calendar and we put up a banner and we have like, it's phase 2 collection week for the comprehensive plan. And it's like all over town, an event that's produced by the town of Telluride that has like multiple meet and greets going on around town with a tab at the bar or whatever. And it's just like super visible. Like, cause
We could close the street and do like a street party. I mean, I love that idea. I think it also serves to give us opportunities to bring the community together as a community.
It's a community building event.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would
The bra
absolutely love that.
for weather. I mean, you know,
Oh,
you
yeah,
can-
that's
the
true.
bra might be a good one in the park.
I just think
We
like,
could also, we've got 3 times that we have to do this. We could do it at different locations. We could do Park, we could do Main Street, we could do Chair 7. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like activation areas where we
parking lot.
could
Mhm.
host a party and invite the community. And
I just think like we have done stuff like that where it's like the rooftop of AHA, but like nobody knew about it, so nobody
Mhm.
came.
Yeah.
And so if we treat it like a true special event and like get a logo and have posters, and I know we've done some of these things, but if we like really throw like the marketing arm at it and go through the process with our
have local bands
boards
play,
and stuff,
Love
to
it.
like, yeah,
And
have the
honestly,
Gold
if
Kings
it
and then
is,
DJ Castle, get them all.
if it is on Main Street, like if people, I mean, and it is like it's busy, there are tons of events, but if it's on Main Street and Main Street is closed, then everyone's like, oh, right, I forgot about that.
Well, do
And
we
then
even need to close the street? I mean, we could do it in Elks Park.
yeah,
That's
we
fair.
we can do it at Elks Park. I totally agree. I just think like putting up a banner is crucial because that's how you tell
That's how people,
everyone's like, what is this?
Yeah.
you know, it is true. They say, what is that? They're like, what is
We have
this?
an arrow pointing to Elks
Yeah.
Park.
And that could be it, like.
Go to Elks Park.
It's Bear Awareness Week.
Well, I like the banner idea too, because we could get one just like main banner that says like, you know, community comprehensive plan, blah, blah, blah. And then like below it, you can say Elks Park or Town Park or, you know, Oak Street Gondola Plaza. And like for the different places, you can,
You'll have to look into the banner rules, but yes.
As long as it's,
the banner rules that we're in charge of.
25 feet by.
it's like big,
Or-
Yeah.
but we could just, as long as it's like, just the text at the bottom.
But we
And
can
say
use
they-
it annually for our.
Toto
like,
has one
survey.
that's got Velcro on it that you put up the, like, they can
Right.
change for dates and stuff like that.
Great, thank you, event promoters.
Yes, there's only 5 of us on the council.
Yeah.
I will love these creative ideas, and that's why we were so excited to work with you all, is that real crew community coming together
That's a
and
good
really
idea.
getting behind this process. So for our next slide, we wanted to just revisit, as we're jumping into this process, your community vision plan. And just look at what the vision was that was established through that, and see if to you that still holds, if it needs to be looked at again. I think if there are people watching online, I'm happy to read this out loud. A livable Telluride will remain a sustainable, authentic, and connected community. We're a small town that embraces and sustains its distinctive natural setting, advances its reputation for innovation, cultural heritage, and remains true to its roots as a livable and genuine community, for future generations of residents, workers, and visitors. So just reactions in the moment, how does that sit with you all? Does it still stand?
Sure is optimistic.
I don't,
It Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, if, you know, the only I noticed looking at it after not seeing it for a while is, you know, there's not much a mention of recreation, which is such a key component of our community. In addition, you know, everything up there is a huge part of it, but, you know,
I think, yeah, innovation, cultural heritage, and like recreation or something, like put that in as a reputation for.
Right.
yeah,
'Cause I think that is part of our reputation.
that's right.
Yeah, it could be seen as part of the cultural heritage, but
I think calling it out is a separate.
And we have
piece.
sharing this with the outreach we've done so far, and we are getting similar, positive reactions to it. Everyone seems to feel like it is still the right vision for where we're headed or where we want headed. So we've got all of our sort of posters up at Elks Park right now doing that pop-up there. So we sort of converted some of the information that we're showing on the posters to these slides for you all to see and react to. From your community vision plan, you all did set up 3 core values: sustainable, connected, and authentic. Ashley, these may get a little towards what you said about diving in deeper, but these are higher level core values. Is there one or multiple ones that are most important to you, or are there some that feel out of place?
I'd say for me, connected is definitely the most important. You know, the metaphor I use a lot and you'll see around town is the bumper sticker, came to ski, stayed for the library. And to me, like, the library represents our community, represents sort of that hub of connection where it's a gathering place, a place for work, a place for just to see and connect with other people. And so obviously it's more than the library, but you know, that community element, I think, is what keeps those of us who have chose to stay here long term. That's the reason why, first and foremost. There's many great things about Telluride, but we're more than just a beautiful place. It's that community element that really ties us all together and makes this more than just another beautiful mountain town.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think also connected because, even though people might, have very different jobs or, come from very different backgrounds, there's something about Telluride that attracted them here, and that a lot of times people have a lot more in common than they think that they do. And I think that the sustainability and the authentic piece, I think the authentic thing is probably the hardest to define of all of these. It's like, what is authentic Telluride? I have a theory that the day that you come to Telluride, you take a snapshot of Telluride, whatever it is at that moment. And that for you is what Telluride is.
I'm the last true local. Everyone.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the last one
Put the
that
gate up.
got it. And so, the definition of again, authentic is going to be tough because, if you would ask my grandparents, what's authentic about Telluride, it would be very different than somebody that just moved here this last winter.
They would claim it's gone.
Yeah.
right?
Or they'd say that the authentic Telluride doesn't exist anymore, which I don't think I think that's a little dramatic.
And you'll get that even with people who say that about community in the sense of community, and whether that's authentic and connected and they're interrelated. And that's kind of, a little bit of a challenge, but
I mean, I think there's something though to be said that, like, if we look at authentic as a core value driver in a way that's slightly different, and not that it's like what the actual elements of the community are or where that make it authentic, but there is very much an amazing quality in this destination that people are really truly who they are. The businesses are who they are. Like, there isn't the posturing and social jockeying the way there is in a lot of other communities. And I think that, like, authenticity as an actual aspect, not that as a quality itself of the people and the things that are here and the destination itself as a result, to me, that's how that word resonates a lot more so than like it was like when Columbia used to be gravel, like I think it's more that people are who they are and this community accepts you for who you are in ways that I don't think you see in many other areas. And I think that that is one of the reasons that this community is as strong as it is because there is an acceptance here that we don't see elsewhere.
And likewise, a rejection of certain attitudes. Because I think when I think of authentic and I think of what authentic is not, it is not fake. And I feel like you always pick on Aspen, but you go there and it's like this image that's catering to a certain visitor to try and get them to come. And I feel like
So that they can portray that same image themselves.
right. And maybe
like
that goes to kind of what Mian was saying about social jockeying. And I feel like that there is social jockeying here, but the type of more of the visitors who come here like to come here because they're not presented with that. They're presented with like whatever we like to do, which everybody's going to argue about and whatever, but that's like, you know, like our sort of dysfunctional.
Well, they
family.
kind of are, they jockey to be in the know, in the crowd, in the
Right.
like, what are you guys doing? What's
And,
happening?
the
Like
cool,
that kind
weird
of.
stuff that we're not going to see at all of the other places because you guys do it differently and you don't have chains and you have small businesses that are run by people who are creative and unique in what they're presenting.
And a lot of it, like a lot of the, businesses and the whatever parties and things like that are word of mouth and who you know and like the invitation. So it's like it's a different.
And it is welcoming. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, like these ski towns are transient. And so people do kind of filter in and they filter out. And as a result, I think that it is that much easier to feel as if that Telluride is your community because you don't have to sort of work your way in. And I think what we actually even saw like post COVID was that families or individuals that came in here that were expecting a little bit more of that urban hierarchy of social strata left because they couldn't sort of operate in this like everyone's cool. Like my ski instructor and my multi-billion-dollar neighbor are all at the same barbecue and we're having the same cheeseburgers, and I think that that's important. There's a guy that I work with and he used this expression a couple months ago that I like absolutely love. That is like, this isn't like a small town, but it's just a really big family. And I think that to me kind of drives to the core of what Telluride is all about. Like everybody is different and they have different value drivers, but at the end of the day, like, you can not love your aunt, but she's still your aunt. And I think that that's the way this community is too.
And I think sustainability, that obviously that word in our, colloquial world right now relates directly to environmentalism, which I think is definitely a big part of Telluride's identity. But I would also say that sustainable to me means that it's, it regenerates itself. And I think that for, a community like ours where we, very much like we kind of have like a yin and a yang where it's like we very much rely on outside people coming in, but then we also very much rely on our connectedness with each other in the small community. That to me, the sustainability is like what is the thing that keeps our wheel moving, that keeps it the forward momentum, and like the balance that allows for that, because sustainability environmentally, if you're out of whack, you're not going to be able to continue forward. It will peter out one way or another. And so that for me, again, I think that it does reflect our environmental goals. And a lot of us, feel strongly about that in our community. And I think that that is a good reflection of us, but I think it goes beyond just a direct relationship to the environment and a little bit deeper than that.
I want to check in really quick because with this special meeting and the timing, I want to be respectful of everyone's time up here. And I'm not sure, I know it's important. I can stay a little longer for sure, but I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. And if our pace is within what your plan was.
Pretty much stood on. Yeah, we've got
Yep.
one more question after this, I think.
Okay. I just want to check in.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hoping to give you a little bit of your day back, but we're gonna run tight and we're close. Do we have one more, Megan?
One more question.
Okay. So we pulled some statistics, just sort of higher level. As part of this process, at the beginning, we're gonna be looking at existing conditions. What are some of those questions or measures that you refer back to frequently in what you're doing that would be helpful to have in this comprehensive plan, that would be helpful to sort of guide others in reviewing and thinking about the future of Telluride? We pulled some things about local residents, commuters, housing costs, income and prices. So are there other sort of measures? Because, you know, there's a lot of data available, but we can't put it all in there, and it's not all important to this process.
I think the economics of the destination, I think tourism numbers specifically, because that is our only
Right.
real income
Mhm.
or real economy, need to be in there, because I think
Mhm.
that, you know, we can love and want to do a lot of different things, but if that
Right.
isn't stable for us, we don't have a community. We don't have anyone here.
I would agree with that.
We talked about trade-offs too. Are there any that might help highlight some of the trade-offs? Transportation, housing, talked about tourism, you know, social connection.
I mean, anything that is going to be, you know, for me, when you look at that chart, you see, you know, two things stand out as certainly, you know, not only what our challenges are, but also where everyone's opinions lie. And it's going to be, you know, how are we working to increase the deed restricted units? And I think we're doing a good job, and we've got, you know, certain things under construction and certain things in the planning phase, but that's going to be always a lightning rod. And then also, and what we're hearing a lot right now is the impact of, you know, I don't necessarily like the fact that it's daytime commuters, and want to make sure that that number incorporates everything. You know, is a daytime commuter count for people working, you know, the impact of, you know, second homeowners that drive in, the impact of day tourists and day trippers that come in, and what that number is and how that impacts, you know, really what our comprehensive plan is to manage that. Because, you know, that's a big, that's one of those, you know, that's one of those hot topics that I've heard lately, you know, right or wrong, that's what's, you know, killing the sense of community, just that volume that's here.
Just maybe striating some, I mean, so I think like when we look at the daytime commuter number, like striating it into East End workforce, regional workforce, visitors, day trippers, et cetera. And I think the housing numbers too, you know, you've got free market numbers there for rent and for the properties, but I think if it was, we broke it into free market and then deed restricted units for pricing as well. I think that we need to gut check, because they're two very different parts of our community. And maybe even taking it even a step further down and saying average rent and free market, average rent and deed restricted units, so that we can really look at the population in terms of what where their socioeconomic leveling is and how to address and help everyone.
There's not any information on here either about businesses, the number of businesses, the types of businesses, you know, how many people are employed on average at each business. This is basically just household information, which is great, but like, you know, there's another component of our town that's, you know, the actual economic wheel that's, I think, missing from this information.
And to Ashley's point, sorry, just jumping in on top of everybody, but if it could be real information about businesses, like we just had a housing needs assessment done and they used federal categories, and it was stupid. Honestly, it's not reflective of what our community
But
is.
you
It
do
felt
have the
like,
employer survey that we could relate back to for some more real,
yeah. So
real
like,
stories.
is it a ski resort?
Yeah.
Is it a restaurant? Like, you know, like is like what it is. I mean, there was just this like giant bucket of like management in that thing. And to me, it just, we want this to be reflective of who we are now, who we're going to be. And we can look to that as a marker, but we have to be realistic about what's actually happening in this community.
And is there a need to differentiate in any of these numbers, especially, you know, whatever the definition of the daytime commuters turns into of summer versus winter.
Right.
You know, historically over time, we flipped from, winter driving the bus to summer overtaking it in numbers for sure. I mean, and when I mean numbers of people.
On that note, the things that really stand out to me here is that ratio of the median single-family home price to our median household income. I just did the math, it's 65 to 1, 65 times the annual income is our median home price. I think that ties to the conversation around businesses and our economy. It's one of my biggest concerns in the next 10 years relating to the sort of quote Aspenification of Telluride is that cost of real estate makes running a small business incredibly difficult, especially in our seasonal economy where there's 3 to 5 months of the year where you're pulling in next to no income in this community. And how do you operate a small business with those sort of realities stacked against you of a very high cost of real estate and periods of the year where you're generating little to no revenue, and making sure that we're incorporating that, because that element I think is an equally big or another large element of our community that's being stressed and challenged right now is, yes, we got to focus on keeping people and workers here, but part of what people like about our community is that small business feel, that sort of unique boutique element that we're not big box stores, we're not big chains. And those parts are definitely being challenged currently as well. And I think we really have to keep that in our minds as part of this planning process.
I have a couple expansions. One, we have the median age, but I think it would be really helpful to know how many children under the age of 18 and how many retirement age
65 and older.
Yeah, just like, because those are quick bullet points to like give you an idea. And also we still have people that come here and they're like, you have a school here? People actually live here? And like, yes, there are families here. And I think that is sort of what we're going to run into, which I feel like we always run into with these kinds of surveys and planning is, who does Telluride belong to, or who does Telluride for, and what direction should we be driving Telluride in to benefit whom? So knowing how many young people there are, knowing how many retirement age people, I think helps with that. Another thing is I would love to clarify the occupied units, because that's often a terminology we use about occupancies for lodging as opposed to homes that are empty versus being lived in year round. So whatever verbiage we can use to say like occupied year round or something. And then for one step further, I would love to do the math for people to show that there are 470 deed restricted units and 470 out of 1209 occupied units is 38%. So
Right.
of the people that live here year round, 38% live in deed restricted units. And because that's going to tie into what our goals are. And there's people who say not very many people that say you guys are doing great, but I think it's important to be able to point to that number and be like, look, if we hadn't done what we have done, we'd be totally screwed. But this is our goal, and this is why we need to get these many, like we have our own goal to house X amount of people in town, but also, what do those unit numbers look like as our proportion of the total that the county is behind, or that we are playing catch up on units, and sort of how does that interact with if we add 300 units or 400 units over the next 5 or 6 years, which is within reach. How is that going to be? Like, is that just adding to the population, or how is that affecting daytime commuters? Because there's people moving from Norwood or Montrose or Ridgeway, and really kind of crunching that dynamic for people so that they see like if there's if we get more dense, we're gonna experience less problems in pollution, parking,
Right.
etc.
But then we also need to figure out then if we've got X number, 100 more people living here, hundreds of more people living here, what does that do to our schools? How do we, do we then have to figure out a secondary school site in Mountain Village? Or like,
Their enrollment's down and they're freaking out about that right now. So
no, but you know what I'm saying? It's just like,
we have to
what
address
is
all of that.
what is the
It's
next
this
steps?
term of carrying capacity that everybody wants us to decide
Yeah.
what is the carrying capacity, and that's somehow our responsibility. But
Well, the county is supposed to determine that.
yeah, but they don't. Okay.
It's in their land use.
But anyway, those are
Keep
my
track a little bit.
those are my main things for this, but I think like really trying to highlight in this on page 1, sort of set a roadmap of like people could look at it and be like, oh, I see where the problem is. And then as they go through the plan, they're like, oh, here's,
Yeah.
And then
And I'd
do
like-
some of those become the key indicators you revisit annually to measure where you're at.
right.
And I'd love in this, and I don't know how outside of scope this is, so probably just really, really far outside of scope, but I mean, this is a plan for the future, and there is technology that is in existence right now. There is rapidly changing AI technology currently. To Geneva's point about if we were to build X number of units, how many more people come in? I think we also do need to, in some way, shape or form, address the jobs that are going to be replaced with automation and technology. Because I do think that, I think there are some of those jobs now that, whether it's ticket checkers on a chairlift, there are gates that could be there. And certainly, I think when you look at the numbers, is a lot less expensive to pay for a gate system at Chair 4 than it is to pay for the housing to support those individuals that all are doing that manually right now. And how does that recalibrate and reshuffle the way our economy works? And the needs that we actually would have in the region for things like housing, or wastewater facilities or school systems or anything else like that. So I don't know how to do that, but thank you in advance for considering it.
Start, right, recognizing that AI is gonna shift the employment environment everywhere, including here.
And I know there's some contractors and subcontractors, granted, it's still pie in the sky, that think that some of the more laborious tasks and non-glorious tasks of building are going to be, eventually some form of robotics and AI. And that's, and if all of a sudden, and, you've got X amount of masonry work being done by that and so many other aspects of it, where's it all going to go?
Yeah.
Right.
So crystal ball, guys.
Well, now that
Let's
we
see.
solved all the
Your
problems.
job.
we can all agree.
Yeah, solve the AI question.
In Telluride right now, we're doing it.
I believe that was the last feedback point from you all for the moment, but we really do appreciate your time today. And we look forward to continuing a lot of these conversations as we move forward through this process. Do you have some next steps for us, Megan and Kristen, or are we just set free?
You're done. Great job.
Freeze is a strong
Go
word.
ahead.
I just want to thank you all for so many insights in this brief hour and a half. I took so many notes. I know we all did, and we will make every effort to incorporate your ideas, suggestions, priorities into next steps in this process, and to elevate this comprehensive planning process, throughout the community. I want to thank this team. The 3 people here, as well as the 2 other members of their team, bring so much expertise that sort of supplements my team, and we're working so collaboratively together. So grateful to the resources and knowledge and experience they're bringing to this process. But thank you all. This was incredibly valuable for me personally, in my role, as well as for all of us as we think about next steps. So we'll stay in touch. We'll connect with you as as things move forward. And please let us know if you have more ideas along the way. Reach out to me anytime for survey questions, community outreach and engagement that we're missing. Please stay connected.
I think we're all willing to do whatever we need to, whatever we want to, and don't hesitate to reach out to us on how we can help you and make this a fantastic plan. And thank you.
Can we set a goal for participating?
Like percentage?
There's a number of people that.
Like number of people that weigh in?
I'm a metrics person, so I would not mind that. Give us
Yeah.
a goal.
I would love for I would love for us to not say this is statistically valid, because I feel like a lot of times we
Yeah.
say that because we're like, whoa, he scraped by and like we're there. Like, I would love for us to be like, it's not that we're hitting whatever that is, 17%, like that we're actually
Are you
looking for.
talking like
What's-
individually?
50%?
Like each council member is gonna get this many people to.
That is the normal.
That could be the extra.
Less than.
Okay, so
And
you are
extrapolate
talking
it,
more
like,
high
abs-
level.
I wanna-
Less than that.
It's like less, it's like 5,
Yeah.
under 10% typically is response.
So if we have 2,500 full-time residents,
Well, and granted, we're going to be talking to people
gonna say-
who aren't
The goal should be
residents of
500.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I think where we heard this earlier, touch points are really great to shoot for. That means that information sharing. So there's like different levels of engagement that we like to track sometimes. It's like the inform, or it's a aware, inform, engage. So how many people are aware of this project? That's pretty simple for us to keep tabs on. I just was writing down how many postcards we printed out, and we want to drop off every single postcard that's printed off this week. So it's out of our hands, and that's an easy one to say. We passed out X amount of postcards. That's that aware. Inform is like, we can track that through clicks on online, or even through when we have a clicker that we do at our events to track who's showing up, and maybe even stopping to look at a board. That would be an inform. And engage is someone that actually signs up for a listening session or puts a dot on the board, shares a sentiment with one of our team members. So that's a way that we can engage. I love the idea of individual goals for participation. That may be something that you guys can think about. I
have to get 20 people to do.
yeah.
I mean, that's how you win elections. That's how
Right.
you engage. That's how you get people to do stuff. It's all personal.
Yeah. So that's probably the
Can we
best
pyramid
way
scheme it
for
where it's
us.
like we each have to get 20 people who have to get 20 people, who
Yeah.
have to get 20 people?
A
that's the
classic
dream.
MLM, multi-level
Oh,
marketing.
I gotta get the buff.
mean, if
I
you
got
say
it.
1,000
My stepmom had a-
participated in
Had a
this
pink
or
Pontiac
more,
from
like
Mary Kay.
that's sort of our
We got a
armor.
car.
Got the
Like,
thing.
Mhm.
So you were in the minority by not doing it.
Right.
That's what I want to be able to say.
Yeah.
All right.
Any last thoughts before we adjourn?
No.
Once again, thank you all. A great job. I mean,
you.
really exciting stuff. And thanks to the council for showing up on a special meeting today and prioritizing it, as well as staff. With that, we will adjourn by mutual consent.